Beneath the waves is an intense real-life look at some of the most ferocious underwater predators. Each week, the series follows the struggles between sharks and their prey. And today, we're back with another episode. So get ready for a new installment titled, Silent Battle. As the name of today's episode suggests, this one will feature a battle between a shark and its prey that doesn't involve any sound at all. Let's jump in. Our story begins in a place where there isn't exactly an abundance of prey, the open ocean. This makes finding food quite difficult, especially for the large and hungry great white shark. These massive fish have incredibly high caloric requirements to survive, but are frequently found cruising around without anything in their stomachs. This is because they spend a lot of time searching for food, which requires a significant amount of energy. In fact, scientists estimate that a single great white shark can swim up to 200 kilometers per day in search of prey. That's about the length of a marathon, and it's just to find something to eat. In the case of the great white we meet at the start of our story, it must be feeling rather hungry, as it's been over a month since it last ate. It's been swimming the coast of South Africa in search of food, but hasn't had any luck so far. But thankfully for our shark, it's about to get its wish, as it's about to cross paths with the tasty squid. This species of squid belongs to the family Ommastrephidae, commonly known as the flying squid. Flying squid are named for their ability to propel themselves through the air, which they do by forcefully expelling water from under their mantle, allowing them to glide above the surface of the water for impressive distances. Now, this is definitely a useful adaptation for escaping predators, but unfortunately for these squids, there are plenty of predators out there capable of catching them before they have a chance to launch themselves into the air. Sharks are among their most feared predators, which makes sense considering how many different types of sharks there are and their incredible hunting abilities. For squids, life really isn't easy. And to make matters worse, squids are incredibly poor swimmers compared to other animals in the ocean. They tend to swim by changing the pressure in their mantle and using jet propulsion to move themselves through the water. Unfortunately, this means they are not very good at sustained swimming or quick maneuvers. When threatened, their best option is often to hide in a crevice or swim backwards while spraying ink to confuse their predator. Sometimes squids will even drop their own tentacles in order to distract a pursuing shark while they escape. The squid in today's episode appears to be completely unaware of the danger it's in, though. We see it relaxing on the seafloor, extending its tentacles towards the camera. If it wasn't already obvious, the squid has no idea it's being stalked by a great white shark. The shark comes closer, sniffing the squid with its incredible sense of smell, trying to figure out if it's worth trying to eat. Squid like this one release a chemical called dimethyl sulfide when stressed, which coincidentally happens to be one of the shark's favorite smells. This is actually a common defense mechanism used by squid. They basically stink up the water to confuse sharks. However, great whites have such powerful noses that it doesn't really work all that well against them. The shark quickly figures out that there is a tasty meal nearby and begins creeping closer. Soon it's close enough to strike, and lunges forward, opening its mouth wide. It looks like the shark has caught the squid, but surprisingly, it hasn't eaten it yet. This may seem strange, but it's actually quite common behavior for great white sharks. After catching their prey, sharks sometimes like to drag it around for a bit before eating it. Why? Nobody is 100% sure, but it's speculated that it could be a form of testing, where the shark tries to figure out if the prey is worth the effort of consuming. If the prey struggles too much, the shark might decide that it's not worth the trouble and let it go. However, if the prey remains still, the shark will usually opt to eat it. This seems to be the case here, as the shark drags the squid around for about 5 minutes before beginning to eat it. But wait a second, what happened to the rest of the squid's tentacles? The squid we see being dragged around only has 2 tentacles attached to it, but earlier we saw it with 8. Well, it turns out that the scene was actually filmed almost a year ago, but the crew were only able to recover this particular clip recently. It was partially eaten, which is why there are only 2 tentacles left. To be honest, it's quite surprising that the shark hasn't eaten the rest of the squid. Usually, great white sharks don't leave any part of their meal uneaten. Unfortunately for the squid, it appears to be rather small, probably only about 14 centimeters long. This means it probably weighed very little and didn't satisfy the shark's hunger at all. In fact, it seems to have only made things worse. The shark continues swimming around, desperately looking for more food. It keeps swimming until it crosses paths with another squid. This one is larger than the last and hopefully will be a more substantial meal. As the shark approaches, the squid reacts by squirting ink into the water and jet propelling away. It looks like it might have gotten away, but the shark is quicker than it is and easily catches it. This time, there is no escaping fate. The shark quickly swallows the squid whole and swims away. Hopefully, this meal will keep it full for longer than the last one. Just then, another squid enters the scene. This one seems much larger than the last couple, but maybe not large enough to fill the void in the shark's stomach. The squid senses danger and does the same trick it did earlier, releasing ink and jet, propelling itself towards safety. Unfortunately, the shark is once again faster than it is and reels it in. The squid tries to make the shark release it by writhing around in its grasp, but it doesn't work. The shark stays focused on the prize and eventually swallows the squid whole. At this point, it's safe to say the shark is pretty full, but this is still nowhere near the amount of food it needs to survive. Great whites need to eat hundreds of thousands of calories each day to meet their energy requirements. With meals this small, it's going to take dozens of squids to fill the shark up. It's also not very efficient to catch and eat squids, as they tend to thrash around and struggle, making it difficult to keep hold of them. This is probably why great white sharks prefer to eat seals instead. Seals are much larger and easier to capture than squids, meaning it's less work for the shark. Sadly for the seal, great white sharks are at the top of their food chain, meaning there aren't many predators that regularly hunt them. Humans are perhaps their greatest enemy, as we often kill them accidentally while fishing, or intentionally in rare cases. Sharks are occasionally targeted by killer whales, which are known to eat them on occasion. There are also the rarer cases of tiger sharks eating great whites. Despite being similar in size, tiger sharks are usually opportunistic feeders, and will only eat great whites if they are dead or dying. Finally, great white sharks are occasionally cannibalistic and will eat smaller great white sharks if they come across them. That concludes another episode of Beneath the Waves. I hope you enjoyed this intense battle between a great white shark and a squid. If you did, please hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't already. Thanks for watching.